Welcome to What's Happening, a show which focuses on upcoming and recent events here in the Lynn area. With me today, Angela from the Lynn Shelter Association and Allison Brooks again, who's a volunteer over at the association. Ladies, thanks for being here today. We're here to talk about your most recent event, the Flashback event. We sent a crew down there to grab some footage and some B-roll, which we'll be playing throughout the show. Allison, I understand that you were a huge help in developing this program, an overall event. It was amazing. It was really cool. Everybody was dressed up to the nines. A lot of food, dancing, music. It was a real party. It was amazing. You did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now tell me about the event. Like, what inspired you to develop this? It was at R&B consignment.
It was, it's a conglomeration of lots of passions and dreams that I have. I love the Lynn Shelter Association and all that it stands for. I think that homelessness is just terrible, and I try to do everything I can to be involved in activities that will provide help to that population. But I'm also very interested in just connecting people in ways that they find fun and interesting and inspiring and new and not boring. So I decided that it would be really good if I could collect as much enthusiasm and passion from amongst the businesses in Lynn and the people that I know and the people that they know to all come together and do something wonderful and fun and fantastic that just happens to have a common goal of raising some money for the Lynn Shelter Association. And I decided that R&B consignment would be a great place to have a party. A lot of people don't really know about it, although everybody can see it. It's right there on the Lynnway. It's beautiful. It's a huge place, completely full of fantastic things. And everybody who goes there thinks it's just wonderful. And it's full of lovely people who were very, very helpful in helping me to conceptualize a party. And it brought them all together as a sort of community as well, and now many more people know about their business. And then in addition to that, there was also Willie J. Laws, who is a real live, incredibly good-looking, wonderfully fantastic musician, a Texan, a real one, and he lives in Lynn, and he's done quite a bit of voluntary work for children in Lynn. And he volunteered that he would come along with a 6-piece band and play amazing music that you couldn't possibly resist but get up and dance to. And then there were the Divinity Dancers, run by Sharon and Gray German, a family who've lived in Lynn, a big and well-known local Dominican family. And they came with their group of dancers and taught us some salsa dancing and did performances. And then there was Everett Hogue, who's this magnificent man, a New York hat designer and vintage couture beaded gown collector from New York. And he came, and everybody volunteered to be a part of this celebration, which was called Flashback. And it was a celebration that brought all sorts of people together to help each other to have a wonderful time with a common goal. And one thing I didn't mention is also that the food was mainly donated by local restaurants. And so I went around local restaurants and asked people if they would donate, and they did. So we actually had fantastic food as well as a wonderful time, and the whole thing was all a charitable event.
It was an amazing thing, and I'll tell you one thing: you sought out to make it unique, and you succeeded, without a doubt. And I had never been in that consignment store either, and I walked in and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is like retro feeling, and you could definitely sense that type of atmosphere there. And you know what's even cooler about it is that you're not a Lynner. Myself, I've been in Lynn my whole life.
No, I'm not
Angela's
a Lynner.
been working in Lynn since 2000, probably even longer. So you latched on and you said, I want to help, and you made it happen. And just from my experience alone, I know there's a lot of legwork in doing an event like that. So, I mean, the amount of time that you must have spent was just amazing. So you took time out of your own day. So, Angela, it must be pretty exciting as an employee over there at the Shelter Association to have a lady like Allison helping us. I mean, do you usually get people like Allison, or would you say she's one of a kind, or at least 2 out of 10?
Yeah, I would definitely say that Allison is unique. Absolutely.
But we'd like to find lots of people that have lots of passion, wouldn't we? We're really hoping that somebody out there will catch the enthusiasm and passion and join us, because we really need a team of people to do these kinds of things.
Yeah, you can't do it alone. So, Angela, let's get into you. You're a program director over at the Lynn Shelter Association. Tell us what that means.
Okay. Well, I work for the Osmond program under the LSA. And at the Osmond, we have, in one building, 103, there's 49 rooms. And we have different programs there in progression, shelter plus care, and supportive housing program. And then right adjacent to it, we have 12 apartments there, 5 shelter plus care, 5 MRVP, and 2 fair market value. And so I oversee all of the programs there.
So you've been there since 2000, you mentioned earlier before the show, which is a pretty long run.
Yeah,
I'm hoping you'd be there longer as well, because the association has had a lot of success recently. And I want to just point out that the programs that they run are, there's a lot more to it. It's not just the Lynn Shelter Association. You'd mentioned that it's an umbrella, and underneath are a lot of separate programs to help people in their individual problems as well. Tell us about that.
Right, absolutely. In fact, I started out in 2000. I started as a director in 2012. But it's amazing that oftentimes when you say Lynn Shelter Association, many people just think in terms of the emergency shelter. And that's just a start. We have the emergency shelter, as I mentioned, the Osmond program, where there's about 4 to 5 different programs just under the Osmond. And then we have the program on High Street. That includes a veterans program. We have the family shelter. That's also there on Baker Street. We have a transitions program in Peabody. Presently, there's a day program that's right across the street. There's like so much under the Lynn Shelter Association to help individuals who are homeless and dealing with the barriers to obtaining and maintaining housing and so many of the issues that people are dealing with today.
And you're doing a fantastic job. Let's get back to you. Let's talk a little bit about the days coming up to the event. I've known from my experience, anytime that you've got something planned, usually the stress happens within hours of it. Did you go through any struggles in actually making this event happen?
I don't think it was exactly a struggle. It was quite a lot of work, because ideally this would be done by a team. It just takes an awful lot of time to go and give the feeling and the shape and the vision and the passion for an event and explain what it is and why it needs to be done to so many people. Ideally, I would have gone to every single restaurant in Lynn and eaten a meal there and convinced somebody to donate some food to the event. Or otherwise I would go to every single furniture store and ask them to donate a bed to the new shelter that we're just about to open up. But I just didn't have enough time to go and do everything I wanted to do. I also need sponsors, and I just didn't have enough time to physically go to all of these places and actually put myself in front of somebody and explain why they really needed to help. But the good part is that I did manage to get quite a lot of people involved, and that those people became enthusiastic, and in the last week there was a sort of I can't think of what the word would be, a sort of a propagating effect. And so everybody was talking to everybody. And in the very last week, it did start to come together.
Awesome.
And in the end, it was a very passionate event.
Yeah, I mean, just from being there, it was definitely one of the coolest events that I've been to in Lynn. I can tell you, I was definitely surprised when we had walked in. I'm like, all right, this is a fundraiser. There's going to be a lot of people sitting at tables. We'll grab some interviews. Nope, nobody's sitting at tables. Everybody's dancing around.
Boringness.
And everybody was happy. Usually when you go to events like that and it's catered, you usually got like a couple guys who are like, I'm working right now. And it didn't seem like anybody was working. So now you guys had quite some success. The goal of this whole Flashback event was to raise some money for the Lynn Shelter Association. And from what I understand, you guys had a lot of success. I'd probably say more success than a lot of other events that have happened this year.
Yes, we would love to raise, we'd love to raise enormous amounts of money. That would be wonderful, but this is Lynn and this is reality. What we need is, we really need about $128,000 a year. Now, there's no way that one event could possibly raise that. The reason we need that is because we just lost $128,000 a year of funding, which is actually has threatened or completely, possibly even put down the day program. And the day program is a wonderful thing that we're very proud of, and we've lost that funding. So ideally, we would find a way, and if there's anyone that can help with any form of sponsorship, buildings or donations. We would love that because we need to have this day program to support our homeless people. Having said that, this particular event was just one night and we did raise about $24,000. So that's pretty good for one night for normal people, and none of us are millionaires, and it's, you know, we feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, 24 grand, that's a huge trunk.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It means we can open our new shelter that Angela was just talking about. So we can open the new shelter.
So Angela, what does this mean to you? 24 grand comes into the pocket of Lynn Shelter Association. What can you guys do now?
Well, I think as Allison mentioned, it would contribute greatly to the opening of the new shelter. There are so many needs now with the individuals we're serving, particularly with families. It's a huge responsibility helping families and dealing with the many issues involved with families. So I think it would be an opportunity for the executive director and those working with her to really sit back and take a look at the needs and be able to address those needs and put the money where it needs to go. Just
having the room to breathe alone must be a luxury in itself. Now, Allison, you had mentioned that the day program has been cut. You lost your funding for that. What happened?
Well, I wish that Margie St. Paul could be here, but she's lost her voice, so she couldn't come today. But she's the wonderful and just like an angel person. She's the executive director of the Lynn Shelter Association, and she has explained to me that this program, I believe, is funded by HUD, the Housing and Urban Development. And what has happened is that due to the need for so much funding of so many things, the funding for services has been cut. We still have funding to shelter people, and indeed we shelter probably 200% more people than the number that we're actually allocated and paid to serve, because we never turn anyone away. But for services, and that means things like teaching people about job skills, learning English, doing substance abuse management, finding people the relevant healthcare they need, all sorts of personal skills and development so that people can become independent. That has been cut. And so if there's any way that we could somehow find a way to get that funding back, or somebody else could replace it,
yeah, hopefully that can happen.
Yeah,
so we've got about maybe 2 minutes, minute and a half left. I want to save this time to talk about the people who utilize the Shelter Association. A lot of people have some negative things, or maybe even ideas that have been planted in their head that these are people who abuse drugs or alcohol, and it's really not that. A lot of these people who are utilizing the Lynn Shelter Association are doing it because they're on the downside. Maybe they lost their job, or significant other maybe got sick and they have medical bills to pay. So this is a real thing, and let's talk a little bit about that. Some of the stereotypes you face are usually not true at all.
Right, and it's amazing that still in 2014, many people they do have that negative, stereotypical attitude around the homeless, and they even think and use that ugly word, bum, when it comes to someone homeless.
Right.
And really, what a terrible thing. I always like to share with individuals, I had a client who, he was a professor in one of the universities, and he lost his job, and he lived off his savings for a while. And so his savings, he exhausted his savings and lost his home and was homeless. No family in the area, and so thankfully for him, the emergency shelter being in the area, he was able to enter the emergency shelter. And from that point on, he was able to utilize the services, the case management services within the shelter, and then move into the Osmond, and he was able to obtain subsidized housing.
Now he's in a better situation because of you.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to wrap this up real quick. Angela, I know that there are some upcoming events that you wanted to mention that the Lynn Shelter Association is going to be having.
Well, I'm not sure of what's happening right now. I do know the biggest thing right now is the opening of the congregate shelter soon.
Okay.
And I don't know if Allison is aware of anything else that's going to be.
Oh, I have lots of things up my sleeve. I think it would be really wonderful to do more parties of that sort, ideally with even a wider number of local Lynn businesses all getting to know each other and cooperating together, so that it's a Lynn event as well as a fundraiser.
Yeah.
And I have a friend, Susan Ogan from Marblehead, is a wonderful photographer, and she and I are putting together an art exhibit of her photography is so beautifully touching. We had a small art exhibit at Flashback, and that was the preview of the next thing we're doing. We're going to have a beautiful art exhibit, but it won't be only an art exhibit. It will be there'll be some other surprises along with it.
Well, keep up the good work, ladies. I thank you for being here. I wish you all the success in the future. Up next, we'll be celebrating the Vietnam ceremony held at City Hall this past week, so enjoy.
Thank everyone for joining us here as we honor those who served, fought and died in the Vietnam War, and those who are still unaccounted for.